Welcome, fellow lore seekers, to our channel where we journey into the heart of ancient tales. When you think of Norse mythology, what comes to mind? Mighty gods, epic battles, and of course, Thor's legendary hammer, Mjölnir, right? But the world of the Norse gods is filled with a treasure trove of powerful, mystical, and sometimes downright strange artifacts that go far beyond just one famous hammer. These objects aren't just tools of war, they are symbols of power, wisdom, and the very fabric of the cosmos. So grab your drinking horn, settle in, and let's uncover the legendary artifacts of Norse mythology that shape the destinies of gods and giants. Let's start with the Allfather himself, Odin. His most iconic possession is Gungnir, the spear that never misses its target. Forged by the master craftsmen, the dwarves, Gungnir wasn't just a weapon, it was a declaration. When Odin cast it over the Vanir gods, it ignited the first war in existence. Etched with powerful runes, this spear was a symbol of Odin's authority and his relentless pursuit of knowledge and power. But Odin's treasures didn't stop there. He possessed Draupnir, the golden ring. Every ninth night, Draupnir would drip and create 8 new gold rings of equal weight. This wasn't just a display of infinite wealth, it symbolized endless abundance and prosperity, a source of divine bounty Odin could bestow upon his favored followers. These 2 items alone show us that Odin's power came not just from his wisdom, but from the unparalleled artifacts he wielded. Now, let S move from the king of the gods to a god of golden-haired beauty and bountiful harvests, Freyr. Often overshadowed by Thor and Odin, Freyr possessed some of the most wondrous items in the 9 realms. First, there's his ship, Skidbladnir. Imagine a vessel large enough to hold all the gods of Asgard, fully armed, yet crafted so cleverly that it could be folded up like a piece of cloth and tucked into a pouch, and no matter where it sailed, it always had a favorable wind. This ship represents the Norse mastery of the seas and the boundless possibilities of divine craftsmanship. But perhaps Freyr's most formidable asset was his sword, Sumarbranda, the summer sword. This magnificent blade could fight all on its own, swinging through armies of giants with a will of its own. Tragically, Freyr gave this incredible weapon away to win the hand of the giantess Gerda, a decision that would leave him defenseless during the final, cataclysmic battle of Ragnarok, a powerful lesson in the price of love. Of course, we can't talk about Norse artifacts without mentioning the one and only Mjölnir. Thor's hammer is arguably the most famous weapon in all of mythology. Forged by the dwarven brothers Sindri and Brokkr, Mjölnir was a weapon of immense power, capable of leveling mountains with a single blow. It could also be thrown and would always return to Thor's hand, like a divine boomerang of destruction. But Mjölnir wasn't just for fighting, it was also used for hallowing and consecration. Thor used it to bless marriages, sanctify land, and even bring his slain goats, Tangrisnir and Tangenjosta, back to life. This dual nature, an instrument of both destruction and creation, made Mjölnir a profound symbol of order and protection against the forces of chaos. To wield it, Thor needed 2 other items, his belt of strength, Meginggjörd, which doubled his already immense power, and his iron gloves, Jarngriper, which allowed him to handle the hammer's raw energy. Not all artifacts were weapons, and not all were possessed by the good guys. Let's talk about the treasures of the goddess Freyja, Freyr's twin sister. Freyja, the goddess of love, beauty, and Seder magic, owned the most coveted piece of jewelry in the cosmos, the Brisingamen. This stunning necklace was so beautiful that Freyja made a costly deal with 4 dwarves to obtain it. When she wore it, Her beauty and allure were amplified to irresistible levels. But it was more than just a fashion statement. The Brisingamen was a symbol of her status and power over life, fertility, and desire. Freya also possessed a magical cloak made of falcon feathers. By donning this cloak, she, or anyone she lent it to, like Loki, could transform into a falcon and fly across the 9 realms at incredible speeds. This allowed her to travel, spy, and gather information, proving that knowledge and mobility can be just as powerful as a hammer or a spear. Now let's turn to some of the lesser-known but equally fascinating artifacts. Have you ever heard of Gjallarhorn? This is the yelling horn belonging to the god Heimdall, the ever-watchful guardian of the Bifrost Bridge. It's said that when Heimdall sounds this horn, its blast can be heard throughout all the 9 realms. It will be this horn's chilling sound that will signal the beginning of Ragnarok, alerting the gods that their final battle has arrived. Gjallarhorn isn't a weapon, but its purpose is far more significant. It's the alarm clock for the end of the world, a symbol of inevitable destiny and the vigilance required to face it. It reminds us that in Norse lore, even sound itself can hold immense, world-altering power. And what about the god of mischief, Loki? He didn't wield legendary weapons, but he was responsible for the creation of many of them, often as a way to get himself out of trouble. Remember Gungnir, Draupnir, and Skidbladnir? Loki commissioned them from the dwarves as part of a bet. Mjölnir itself was created because Loki mischievously cut off Sif's golden hair, and he needed to replace it with something even more magnificent to appease a furious Thor. But Loki also had a unique artifact of his own, a pair of magical shoes that allowed him to walk on the sky and the sea. These shoes enabled his swift travels and quick getaways, making him an elusive and unpredictable force throughout the 9 realms. Loki's story shows us that sometimes the greatest power isn't what you hold, but what you can create, or what you can talk your way out of. Another fascinating item is the story of the mead of poetry. This isn't a weapon or a tool, but a magical beverage that grants the drinker the skill of a master poet and scholar. It was created from the blood of the wise being Kvasir, mixed with honey. After a series of murders and trades among dwarves and giants, Odin, in a daring heist, stole the mead by transforming into an eagle and flying back to Asgard with it in his mouth. He managed to spit most of it into sacred vessels for the gods and worthy mortals, but a few drops fell to Midgard, creating all the bad poets in the world. This myth beautifully illustrates the Norse belief that inspiration and creativity were divine gifts, a precious substance to be won and treasured. It shows that for the Norse people, the power of words was just as magical and sought after as the power of a sword. Finally, we cannot forget the tools that sustained the gods themselves. Idun, the goddess of youth, was the keeper of a sacred orchard bearing golden apples. These were no ordinary fruits. When the gods felt old age creeping in, they would eat one of Idun's apples to regain their youth, vigor, and immortality. These apples were the key to the gods' eternal life, making Idun and her orchard one of the most vital assets in Asgard. When the giant Thiazi once kidnapped Idun, the gods quickly began to wither and age, showing their deep vulnerability and dependence on this life-giving artifact. The golden apples are a powerful symbol of life, rejuvenation, and the delicate balance that maintains the divine order. From Odin's all-piercing spear to Idun's life-sustaining apples, the artifacts of Norse mythology are so much more than simple props in epic stories. They are windows into the values, fears, and aspirations of the Norse people. They represent concepts like cosmic order, untamable chaos, the price of love, the power of words, and the endless cycle of life and renewal. Each object carries a story, a purpose, and a profound meaning that enriches the entire mythological landscape. The next time you think of Thor's hammer, remember that it's just one star in a vast and brilliant constellation of legendary treasures. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the vaults of Asgard and beyond. What's your favorite Norse artifact? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the mists of mythology. Until next time, stay curious and keep seeking the lore.